Recording now. Namaste everyone. Welcome to our Black History Month Interfaith celebration. It is a great pleasure and honor to welcome all of you. Today is a special day for us, even though we are coming from different traditions and different countries and different faith. Doesn't matter, we all are human being as a spiritual, chosen and divine being. But one thing you had to remember, a group of people from the earth suppressed by some people, so we don't want to accept those type of actions. We have to support those who are suffering or suffered. So we uplift those people and make them as equal as everyone else. So we are here to bring the spirituality, I'll say universal spirituality, more than anything else. We all have our own belief. Wonderful. Please practice in deeper. Don't live in peripheral level, in deeper. Without further delay, I want to invite Dr. Maliga Shabab. She's a high priest from the Urubat tribe. Dr. Maliga Shabab, floor is for you.
Yes. Oh, am I able to speak at this time?
Yes, correct.
Okay, yes, sir. Yes, I am Dr. V. Malika Sabah. I'm going to say a place that I'm originally was born from, and you all have heard of this place recently in the news. And I was born, and I was said in the language, in the way that we say it, where I'm born from, Houston, Texas. Okay. And believe me, when I lived in Washington, D.C. with a bunch of sisters from Harlem, New York, they rest assured, they made fun of every word I said from Houston. So I'm from Houston, Texas originally. I'm now living in Ohio on my family ancestors' little small 3.5 acres of land because no one wanted it. So I say, you know, I held my hand up, and why I did that, I didn't know, because at the time I was living in a high rise in Houston. So, but since I've been here on this land from the ancestors, I'd say that I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. I wouldn't even want to go back downtown Houston, working for the mayor's office, walking around in high heels downtown in a high rise condominium. This is the best thing that ever happened to myself and my family. I'm also an ordained and licensed minister. And I am not, we say that, I have to make a little correction because people don't know. We say that we are of the faith of Ifa Orisha. We don't say that we are of the faith of Yoruba. So thank you, brother. A lot of people get it that way. But our faith is Ifa, I-F-A, and Orisha, without the H. And so because of that, this is basically what our people from African Asin, not decent Asin, came from when we were brought over here, you know, from our motherland. And we say mother for a reason. It's a reason that we call it motherland, from our motherland, because Africa gave us everything, like you would be from your mother. It gives you everything. So therefore, when we were brought over here from our motherland and in the places that they call the Caribbeans, because they were carrying beans over there. So from the Caribbeans, we brought with us, still remember, our ancestors remembered what we were when we were there before the missionaries came. And my basically doctoral degree is in indigenous religion. Indigenous meaning that I wanted to know, where were our brothers and sisters from the land called India? Where were we from the land called Akibuland? Where were we in these islands of the Kuba? What was we doing before the missionaries came on a mission? So when the missionaries came on a mission, what did they find? What were these people doing? How did they live before that happened? So therefore, my studies was that of indigenous religion. I didn't want to get a degree in a seminary school or anything so I can come out and preach. We have enough preachers, as you very well know. I didn't need to do that. I could do that. I did do it for a minute, but I say, no, my studies was indigenous. And I need to know the history and her story, not just his story. I needed to know also her story as to how we got the way we are. So yes, I thank you all so much. I thank Queen Diambe for having me be in her stead, for being on here, because I'm taking her place. I work with her, and I'm also one of her spiritual advisors. And so therefore I say Modupe for her, Shakran for her, thank you for her. And in sign language, I say, yeah, thank her for referring me to you all so I could be a part of this beautiful forum. And let's rest assured that regardless, like the brother was just saying, regardless of what our beliefs is, regardless of what our faith is, how we do it, what we do, how we pray, the most important thing is that we are of the same family. The same family means that we are of the Hugh family. You can put the other word to it, but we are of the Hugh family. So we are of the same family regardless of whatever else we do. Let's just make sure that when you pray, make sure you pray, make sure you say the words with the divine power. Divineness, always use the divine, because we can say, oh, I pray to the Holy Spirit. Well, what Holy Spirit are you praying for? I'm praying to the divine Holy Spirit. So that's what we want to be sure that we make sure we say when we do our prayers for ourselves, our family, for the nation, and the rest of the world. I just simply say Ashe, and thank you for having me on.
Ashe. Thank you.
Ashe.
Wonderful to hear that.
Thank you.
Sometimes I tell my friends, my mom was a really dark person. My dad was a light person. I became a brownie in between. So for me, it's easy to handle anyone, So I want to invite our Queen Mother Blakely. Queen Mother, please unmute yourself. Queen Mother. Maybe she's talking to somebody. Okay, then I had to invite, let me see. Yeah, Angeline Butler. She's a civil rights icon, musical force, living legend. I was reading her history. I know if I speak about her, that's not enough. I was looking for Lindy to speak about her, So much story. Actually, she's the person stood behind for women's rights, for voting and all the activities. She studied in Juilliard and Columbia and other universities, and she's an advisor to so many groups, and she's organizing Ghandi King movement for so many years. That's why I met her at the Ethical Cultural Center a few years back. I already put it on Facebook. There's a big bio about her yesterday. Because we were talking yesterday, right away I call her. This is the best event to bring, more than talking about African-American people, those who are in different countries. Those who living here went through the life of America and made the change. That's the part I love about. I know I met so many great leaders from Africa at the UN and all the stuff, but she is something special. Angeline Butler, floor is for you.
Well, I think you'll be surprised that I have a very strong Indian connection.
Oh.
And not only from Native American Indians, which my father was a descendant of Catawba, and my mother was a descendant, her grandmother was Cherokee. So very often I am speaking to Native Americans. I've been invited in by Evan Pritchard, who has written 42 books on the subject, Native New Yorker is one of his most acclaimed books. The other part of the quote Indian culture is that I began with Hatha Yoga. Then I went to Raja Yoga. Then I went to Vedanta Yoga and studied the science because I had health problems while I was a student at Columbia University. Then I went to Tantric Yoga. And one of my, quote, Indian friends at Columbia University, I lent him this wonderful book I had on Tantric Yoga, and he never gave it back to me. So I stole it. Okay. And then I went to Chidvilasananda and Muktananda. Okay. So I have very strong background in meditation. And so I respect very much Guru. And also I met in my lifetime Sri Sharamati Vedanta. And he was the one that healed my allergies back when I was a student at Columbia University. I was going to the hospital, exploding like mad, 3 times my size. I had what they call angioneurotic edema. And I had it as a child, but I didn't know what it was, so I didn't understand when I graduated from high school in South Carolina, why I had these swollen eyes. Yes. And I later found out that I had angioneurotic edema. And so I had a very big explosion. I ended up in the hospital, the Richland County Memorial Hospital. Turned out to be allergic to even my family. Okay. And they treated me with chlorotrimazole, Vistaril, and prednisone. And then when I left the hospital after 2 weeks, they gave me 18 pills per day to take. And then eventually it caused me heart palpitations when I was a student at Columbia, the prednisone. And so the guru, Sri Sharamati, took me off of all of that. He gave me the book on Vedanta Yoga, and he told me to read everything word for word in there and to make notes and the postures, that seemed to be applicable to my illness and my symptoms, to write it down and begin to practice, and that I should get up in the morning at 4 o'clock before the sun rises. And I should do Dhouti, Dhouti. I'm sure the guru understands that. Right. It's a system of evacuation of the poisonous phlegms in the body. And, it would be really great if people knew how to do it. Maybe you'll talk a little bit about that today, because right now with COVID around and with all the flus and stuff, and people are having tremendous amount of fluids in their respiratory system. And it would be great if they knew how to evacuate them through Dhouti, Dhouti. So anyway, I have quite an extensive background, and I took myself gradually off of the medications. And I did exactly what he said, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning before the rise of the sun. And first I, bathed my body, and then I evacuate my system, and then I sit for 1 hour in meditation, and then I go for a walk, and I breathe slow 10 breaths, and listen to nature. And over a period of time, I lost all those angioneurotic edemas.
Oh, great. Give thanks.
Wonderful to hear the story, because these are the things people don't know what is the treatment, Yesterday I was talking to one of the group, then they talked about the vaccination, this and that. I said, wonderful to have vaccination when it's really emergency, We don't know. Food, water, thoughts are our medicines. Even air is medicine. When we will mess up everything, what is inside the earth will bring it up and we'll take it. And reverse everything. That's the way we do things, So I like to hear your story about the jail.
Okay.
That is very important.
Well, there is that too. Okay. I was a teenager, and I went to Fisk University by accident. I had a scholarship at Overland College. because I was a musician all my life and a beauty queen. And I represented my state as Miss South Carolina National Shrine to Philadelphia, all those kinds of things. And so I had this talent, which I was unaware as to how strong it was. So I went to Fisk University, and some people were attracted to me, like John Work, who was 16 years a conductor for the Jubilee Singers. President Stephen J. Wright, for some reason, took me in. I had almost become an alcoholic in my first year because I didn't want to be at Fisk because, you know, like I said, I got there by accident, and I had a scholarship to Oberlin. So the last thing I wanted was to go to a Black college, you know, in Nashville, Tennessee. But anyway, I wanted to go to the conservatory. Anyway, so I was drinking Morgan David wine in the dormitories, out drinking everybody, you know, it's the truth. And we go, you know, down to the local restaurant that served wine and stuff. And I would drink everybody under the table, come back to the dormitory drunk. And then when at Fisk, they had very strict rules about behavior, you know, because you're a Fisk lady, okay? And Miss Margaret Sims in the dormitory at Scrivener had me constantly on social probation because I was always violating the rules. For instance, on Sunday, you couldn't wear tennis shoes through the lobby, okay? You had to dress up and be a Fisk woman, okay? And so I would purposely wear my tennis shoes and this kind of stuff, so she put me on probation, okay? I was rebelling against everything in my first year at Fisk, but Reverend Dr. Stephen J. Wright, the president of the university, and his wife, Rosalind, and then Dr. John Work and his wife, both those families kind of took me in because they saw something else in me. And then Marion Fuson and her husband, who was head of the physics department, they kind of took me in. They started inviting me to their house on Friday night. And so it is through Marion Fuson that we are introduced to the nonviolent workshops that are going on at the First Baptist Church in Nashville. And Jim Lawson, who was asked by Martin Luther King to come to the South, and he dropped out of Oberlin College to actually, he didn't finish his studies there because Martin Luther King asked him to come to the South now. We need you now. So he teamed up with the Fellowship of Reconciliation and became like a field worker for the Fellowship of Reconciliation. He came to Nashville and he set up these workshops through the Nashville Christian Leadership Conference, which was a leg of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And so Reverend Kelly Miller Smith was the pastor of that First Baptist Church in Nashville, where they first began those workshops. So Mrs. Nelson Fuson, Marion, who is now 101 years old, and you're going to be meeting her, not in person, but you'll be meeting her on the phone for our Ghandi King event. She was the one who introduced the students who were in the Nashville Friends, her group, to the nonviolent workshops. And literally in the meantime, Martin Luther King paid a visit to Fisk through the president, Stephen J. Wright, for our spring festival in '59. And that was the first time I really, knew more about Montgomery. We heard about Montgomery, we heard about Rosa Parks, but hearing about it firsthand is a whole nother story. And Martin Luther King came and he talked to us about that. And I had a chance to show him around to the art gallery at Fisk. And because he was staying with Dr. Stephen J. Wright and Mrs. Wright. And so I had a chance to show him around to the gallery, which was a very short distance away. And Aaron Douglas and very many famous Black painters were there. And I was 17, I was very naive, and naturally I was fascinated by this young person, because he was about 27 at that point, 27, at most 28. And I didn't have many questions for him because, I was just really too thrilled to be in his presence, and that Dr. Wright had allowed me to take him over to the gallery. So 1 year later, I'm in jail. Okay. Okay. 1 year later, exactly 1 year later after that, 59, I'm in jail. And I'm leading the movement in Nashville. Now, how did I get there? Well, the nonviolent workshops, and then I met John Lewis, and James Bevel and Bernard Lafayette, and they sometimes came to Mrs. Fuson's Quaker meetings that were on Sunday mornings. And that was the first time I had a chance to experience meditation, Guruji.
That's good.
Because the Quakers sit in silence. And then when they feel the spirit, they get up and they testify or talk about what came to them. So I had those two things going for me. And then now the nonviolent workshops. And then they moved the workshops up to another church, which was the Clark Memorial Church, which was nearer to where the campuses where students could be more participant. And that worked, and we drew a larger crowd from Tennessee State University, A&I, Agricultural and Industrial, from Harry Medical College, which was across the street from Fisk University, and from American Baptist Theological Seminary, which was up the road on Jefferson. And they were smaller, but they had all the ministers. And all those young ministers at American Baptist Theological Seminary were already involved with Martin Luther King and SCLC. So we all of a sudden, after training in 59, began testing in local downtown Nashville establishments in small groups. And we go back, instead of getting arrested, because we hadn't contemplated anything at that point, we just, if they ask us to leave, we would leave. And we'd go back to the meeting in the evening, and then we would explain what happened to us that day. So now we would go through role playing, and some of the ministers would be the bad white guys, and we would be the students, and they would throw us off the chairs. They would cuss us out. They would throw things at us, and now we had to explain how we felt when that was being done to us. So they were programming us what we could expect from the white community when we protested, whether it was a freedom ride, a sit-in, or whether it was a picket line, or whether we were doing the movie theaters, whether we were working on integrating the schools, no matter what, because it wasn't about sitting in. It was a larger picture of desegregating the South. We needed to desegregate the South, and we needed targets. We needed strategy, and we needed to focus on one thing at a time so that we would get that done. So we first chose the sit-ins in the lunch counters, and then that's in 1960. And then we chose the freedom rides in 1961. And in the fall of 60, when we came back to school after we desegregated Nashville, we chose the movie theaters. So, and then all of this snowballed throughout the South to other college campuses. So we had maybe, 22 cities and maybe thousands of students going to jail. Some of the charges that I had were trespassing. The beginning charges were trespassing, and maybe they only carried a $50 fine with them. But that second charge that I had in Nashville, where 106 of us had to turn ourselves in after we'd gotten out of jail in a 2-week period for trespassing and loitering. Now the governor of Tennessee ordered that we be rearrested, and we had to turn ourselves in. And that's when we discovered it was 106 of us as opposed to the 80 that the Nashville Tennessean was writing about. And this was conspiracy to obstruct trade and commerce, and it carried a $500 charge for each student. Now, that Tennessee governor was determined to put us in jail and keep us in jail. And what amazed him was that Dr. Stephen J. Wright, our president at Fisk, who was the first person to come out in the South supporting as a college president the sit-ins. And he didn't know if Fisk would be bombed as a result of his public statement. You know. Now, I understand that Wikipedia has that he objected to the sit-ins. That's not correct. Now, or objected to the sit-ins or asked us to stop sitting in. That was only after the steering committee was meeting with the downtown merchants and they were negotiating desegregation. They asked us to stop demonstrating during that period. So to have some peace while they were demonstrating, okay? while they were negotiating. And then, of course, we would go back, you know, we would return. If we didn't like what they came up with, we would return to the counters and do more demonstrations, okay? But he was the first president to call a convocation on a Black college campus and to publicly support the actions of the students. Dr. Stephen J. Wright. And then he was really a marvelous human being. When we were in jail, he was down in Tuskegee Institute with Booker T. Washington, and they were in a meeting, and he rode all night long when he heard the students were in jail to get back on the train to get back to Nashville to see about his students. So we love him. You know, very few people have ever spoken about him, but this was a great support for us because we didn't expect it. Because at Tennessee State, they had the opposite response. At Tennessee State, which had, well, Fisk only had maybe a, you know, like under 1,000 students, but Tennessee State had thousands of students, and that was a state institution, and they were up the road. Well, on the morning that we were arrested the first time, the governor called their president and asked him to call a convocation over there. And he promised them 2 new school buses for the football team and 3 new water fountains in the dormitories in the buildings if those students wouldn't go downtown that day. And that was, convocation happened in the morning immediately after our arrest. And Matthew Jones, who died just about 3 years ago, he was living in New York. He sicked all of the basketball and the football team, and everybody walked out on the president and headed for downtown Nashville to the First Baptist Church, where James Bevel and the ministers were there, and they sort of put them in groups of 6 and 7 and told them where they would go. And they sat in every place they could at that day, and the police arrested everybody they could until the jails that wouldn't take anymore. So that was February 27th, 1960. That was the first day of massive arrest in the South. It's such a long story. I could continue, but I think I should stop there.
Yeah, and I'll put it another day only for you. Because so much story is there, you know. People should hear these stories. Thank you. I appreciate Angeline Butler.
March 25th. March 25th she'll be on again.
And Lindy already put a YouTube link on our chat box. Those who want to go and check on this one about her bio and all other stories. Please
did you see the one the Actors Fund of America put up about the performing arts legacy?
That I saw yesterday. I was looking for different pages.
Yeah, because that's the latest one that was published. And this last year, they chose me as one of the people they wanted to focus on.
Oh,
the Actors Fund of America. That's our major organization helping artists all over the country.
oh, that's all. Thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you, Angeline Butler. I appreciate your support. I want to invite our Queen Mother Deluse Blakely as a doctor. She's an American former nun and current religious leader, writer, activist, and humanitarian. A goodwill ambassador to Africa at the United Nations. Over 50 years, Queen Mother is supporting all the NGOs, not only one group of, I won't say she's supporting only Africa, including us. She's there. Whenever we ask her, oh, Queen Mother, we want to talk with you, she's there. That's the way she is. A people's person, you know, a global survey. Queen Mother, floor is for you.
Can you hear Queen Mother?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to say from Sister Butler, what a rich history of sharing with us the Deep South in the revolutionary spirit of us as spiritual leaders. And we always had the soul energy within our family. So I want to thank you for that. And I would just like to add, coming out of the Deep South, Mama Imelda Boynton.
Absolutely, from Selma.
110 years old.
Yes.
And did live to be 110 years old. And I was there for the homegoing. And they honored me as a foot soldier. And you know what that means when you're honored as a foot soldier going across the Pettis Bridge in Selma, Alabama. And in that reference, they have to be always the reference of Tuskegee Institute, Tuskegee University. Tuskegee is the place of knowledge and continue to be a part of that stream of information, which Mama Imelda Boynton was very much part of that education institution. Yes, I would just like to share, and I'm glad that our brother from, some would say from Calcutta, but I would say from Kolkata, visiting Mother Teresa. Nun, I went to her mission because I'm sure that all of you know that I was a Roman Catholic nun for 10 years of my life. And coming to New York City, and particularly living in Harlem, but before Harlem, living in Staten Island, is still a part of the boroughs of New York City. And what a rich history in the city and the town. And you know, we were so great, we named ourselves twice, New York, New York. Not only the city, but also the state. And to have the interfaith religions from around the world at the United Nations. What a place to meet the various persuasions and the various different articulation of the spirit, soul, culture, energy of peoples within the United Nations. And yes, Queen Mother has been involved with interfaith. And as I travel the world, I look for interfaith religion as an African descendant. Wherever I go, I look for the spirituality of that nation. And whatever name they have endowed within the culture of their spirit, Queen Mother respect that culture. So you would see in one day, if I went to Israel, in the morning, I would go to the mosque to pray at the mosque. In the afternoon, I would go to the synagogue. And in the evening, I would go to the church. It's all in one place, interfaith dialogue of religion, and which we come out of. So as a woman who is a spiritualist, and as I walk the sacred ground of our ancestors, and the way that they worship and the way that they lived, Queen Mother endures it, even in a place called Touba in Senegal, in the holy city. Beyond Jerusalem, Queen Mother would spend time in the holy city called Touba. So I've been very blessed, I would say, to our brothers and sisters have had that opportunity in life. And I continue to enjoy that opportunity because it's about tolerance. How do we live with each other without killing each other? How do we live together? Religious tolerance is what Queen Mother is practicing and preaching in the world. And I would just like to leave it there by joining this historical conversation and so enriched. I wish the world was listening to us today, which last week we were at the discussion of social development at the United Nations, which Queen Mother joined around some of the systemic problems, or you would say systemic issues that we must continue to address and pass on to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. They can't always wait for us in intergenerational relationships, but they do slow down once in a while, and they will call Queen Mother, have Queen Mother to be a part of their assembly or a part of their involvement with conversation or discussion. Yes, religion is usually a part of that equation when I do speak to them. And so it is a part of our life-setting pattern in life itself. We are born out of the reality of this consciousness spiritually. Every one of us is born in it, whether we want to be in it or not. We are born in it. And so as we tolerate each other and share with each other what we are born into, we will say that we appreciate that, especially at the global community, which our brother is rendering to us today. It's about, yes, Black History Month, but what does all of that mean if we do not reach into the spirituality of our historical moment in time? And so I appreciate that. And Queen Mother would like to say, thank you for including me in the discussion and in the dialogue and in this moment of spirituality with each other. And I thank you from the seat in Harlem, New York. Thank you.
Thank you, Queen Mother, listening to your wisdom. You know, I want to have a personal event, meeting everyone in a hall. You know, that's what I like it. But somehow Corona made us in this situation fine. We won't give up. Still, we'll continue our work. You know, appreciate your support. I want to invite Reverend Susanna Markham. She has a poem. Susanna, flourish for it.
Thank you, Gurji. And first, I want to thank my African-American sisters for their wisdom, their strength, their sacrifice. I bow to your radiance, and I thank God to be here with you. And I thank God for the work you've done, because African history, Black American history is human history. I asked Gurji if I could humbly read Amanda Gorham's poem that she read at Biden's inauguration. You know, every once in a while, when things are dark, God sends a prophet, a voice. We saw this with Martin Luther King. We saw this with Nelson Mandela. But it amazes me that lately it's been young women, right? Think of Greta Thunberg regarding the environment, how she galvanized the world. Think of Malala when she got shot by the Taliban, how she galvanized the world for what female education. So when Amanda Gorman spoke her words, her truth, the internet went wild afterwards, talking about, you know, the next one. She's 24 years old. She's an American poet and activist. Her work focuses on issues of oppression, feminism, race, marginalization, and the African diaspora. She was the first person to be named National Youth Poet Laureate. And when I read her poem, which I could never read, I'm humbly reading the way she read, she's talking about the United States, but I would ask, because Guruji's forum speaks to the world, that we can say, instead of the United States, the world, any country, okay? Because these are universal truths. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a seed we must wade. We brave the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what is isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country in a time where a skinny Black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we aren't striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge a union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, and characters and conditions of man. And so we lift our gaze not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony to all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never know again defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it. Because being American is more than pride we inherit. It is the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. But this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust. For while we have eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared its inception, but we did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour. But within it, we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves so, while once we ask, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised, but whole, benevolent, but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their blunders, But one thing is certain: if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we have left. With every breath of my Brown's pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the golden hills of the West. We will rise from the wind-swept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lakeland cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner of our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, and there is always light if we only were brave enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it. Ashe. Amen.
Hey, that was beautiful, Reverend Susan. See,
Amanda Gordon, 24
right.
years old.
She made a history. You know, she gave some vision to youth, because 40% of the citizens around the world are youth. We have to focus on them. They can make the change within 1 week. That's the way they are. I like to invite Reverend Olurumi Alapo, one of our long-time friends. Remy, floor is for you.
Namaste, everybody. Peace and blessings to you all. Thank you, Guruji, for inviting me again here today. Queen Mother, greetings, peace and blessings to you and our previous guest speaker. It is always customary to recognize those who are older than us and all those who have been here before us. So with your permission, I ask and I request that I give excerpts from Dr. King's speech, since we're celebrating a Black History Month event today with World Yoga Community. And this speech was his I Have a Dream speech. Of course, many people have heard this so many times, and I'm going to read sections of it to help in commemorating today's event. So again, this speech was given by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On the march on Washington on August 28, 1963. I have a dream. I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who have been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. So we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was the promise that all men, yes, Black men as well as white men, will be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that American America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vault of opportunity of this nation. And so we have come to cash this check, a check that will give upon us demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all God's children. It will be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of this moment. We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only. We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and Negro in New York believe he has nothing to vote on. Of course, many people may be wondering, this was, the March on Washington in 1968, and we have come a long way until today that we're in 2021. But we must remember that this is the day, and there will be a day when all God's children will come together in unity, when all God's children come together as brothers and sisters, living on the words of the Reverend Martin Luther King and all the civil rights leaders and current leaders in the Black Lives Matter movement, and all those who cherish and love their brothers and sisters in the Black community. I call upon you to work together as brothers and sisters so that we can bring together racism as a thing of the past, so that both Jews, Gentiles, white, Black, Negroes, of all races, all religions, all creed, all faith, all walks of life can be free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are all free at last. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Remy. That was wonderful. You brought the point from Martin Luther King. I didn't ask anyone, what to so they're bringing points. That's the best part. I'm new to American culture, even though I'm living 21 years in New York. I spend more time from the international groups in different levels. Now I had to focus in different areas because we know we had to work in different levels. We have this democracy, still it cannot go fast enough. We have kings, they cannot rule properly. We have other groups, still they cannot run very well. Only way, educate people to protect themselves. That we had to focus on that part, No one is sitting on somebody's head. Not supposed to happen. In my culture where I belong to, we have great gurus. They never sit on a throne. They sit on the floor. They know how to serve and care and love. That's the way we grew up. Even we have differences in India. People start sitting on the golden chairs. It's not a proper. So we had to change that system. We are here to love each other, care about everyone, make a globe as a human divine family, nothing else. That's the part I am working on it. Otherwise, I'll be a millionaire sitting in my Rolls Royce car, you know. So I want to invite my brother, Dr. Wale Idris Ajibade. He's the founder and chair of the African Views. I asked him to bring some stories, histories. Dr. Wale, floor is for you.
My brother Guruji, I embrace you with all the love that is in your aura and that you so generously share with the world. It's beautiful. And I greet you all. The precious Reverend Susanna is here. My heart is warm. I'm very happy. I greet my Queen Mother. You are here, the Queen of Queens. It's so great to see you. It's really a joy. And I want to assure you that we are working on your demand. I take that very seriously. The last time we spoke, you talked about moving, and we take that very seriously, and we're working on it.
Wale, Dr. Malika Shabab from Kyun DMB's group, okay? She's here.
Okay.
I don't know you know her or not. I want to mention to you.
Oh, thank you. I greet her as well. I greet her. You know, I actually want to greet my brother. Where is he? Gabriel. Yes, Gabriel. It's such a reassuring presence that you have. A beautiful heart. Really, always a joy to see you. My brother Pete. I see Winnie as well. I see lots of great people here. I greet you all. Really wonderful. And thank you so much for coming to celebrate the Black History Month with us. We take this very, very seriously because obviously since come here, darling. I got my kids with me, so you might see them. Come here, say hello, guys. I don't know if you can see, but this is Maya. She's celebrating her. How old are you now?
I'm gonna be 9.
Very good.
Hi.
She's 9, and we have the troublesome Soraya here. Come on, Soraya. Come here. Come here, darling. Always running around without a shirt on. Anyway, oh, I see that Dr. Doris just joined us as well. I greet you. You know, it's really, say hi quickly, Soraya, be polite. You know, I'm using a virtual background so you can see her just coming in and out, but here she is. This is Soraya. All right, darling. So this is really wonderful gesture that you have chosen to do this for the African community. It's really a very complex history. You mentioned a few things here about humanism, and I want to assure you that all those things that you mentioned about all those gurus, they are also very present in Africa. We have traditional practitioners who show the same value as the gurus of India in their own traditional elements. And I want to assure you also that we have that in Europe. This is just human beings are the same everywhere. I want us to always keep that in mind, that our cultures are just interpretation of our phenotypes, of our environment which we grew up in, which has cultivated a linguistic nature, language, etc., before we were colonized. So if we look at things that way, we can better interpret our relationship. So in the United States, I want to start because really this history is the history of African Americans, which is the history of Africans in America. And for all of us, especially those of us who are immigrants, which is often most of us, even if we come from Europe, immigrants. And we need to know the struggle that the African Americans have gone through in order to change, to really provide us all the benefits of citizenship that we all enjoy today. You know, many of them, including Europeans in America, have paid with their blood on the street, lives, to provide us all the civil rights that we enjoy. And it didn't just happen that way. Even generations before them have gone through all these elements. And the challenges are there. So we continue to experience that today, and it's important for us to always put that in perspective, because it's easy to see someone of African American descent or African descent and say, oh, it belongs to that group, you know, there's no relationship with me here or there, whereas there is, because without their experience, we won't be enjoying what we enjoy today, whoever we are. So to me, that has never eluded me for a minute. And I always encourage many of us to understand it, whether it is from a religious perspective, because even practicing our religion really is the effort. See, so there's many of these things that they have done. And when you look at all those leaders that you have put together in that beautiful graphic that you used to advertise this program, you begin to see, if you look at each one, you look at their principles of philosophy and what they brought into the struggle, which they call the struggle because it's still ongoing. You begin to see the patterns and how they grappled, how they wrestled with the challenges, with their own beliefs and convictions. This is not too different. Take, for instance, in the 40s in India, where you have the factions struggling with each other. You know, and don't forget the relationship between Martin Luther King and Gandhi, you know, following the Satyagraha, which is the principle of nonviolence, to face adversity with people who are very aggressive. You know, I mean, there's no step that has been taken in our humanism and our effort to live with each other that has not been faced with lots of pushbacks. I'll give you a good example. One of the first, perhaps the first African-American to, this is sports, for instance, to win a boxing match and become the world champion, had to go through so much struggle, because this was a sport only for white entertainment. And I don't like to use the word white, but just for the sake of it, because it allows us to lazily, you know, identify what the point is here. The struggle of having to go through that sport and emerge as a winner raised a lot of, you see, the recent protest that we saw in the Capitol Hill, we saw that many times in history. This was not the first time for new immigrants like me or any other who probably have not taken a good look into history. That would be shocking, but to people who know, this has been a regular and a consistent response. I want you to know that when this first boxing champion won the first heavyweight champion, there was a pushback, there was a whole riot, there was burning and looting and killing of people. So what I'm trying to say here is that people here have gone through so much. When they started their own market, where they pushed for self-sufficiency, there was a pushback, they burned the whole city down. So the effort of our civilization is not just dependent on one particular culture. It depends on all of us. Especially we new immigrants need to understand this so that we don't easily fall into the trap of the winning sides. Oh, it looks great here, I want to be part of this, because when I'm part of this, I'm cool, or I'm this, or I'm that. You know, we we begin, when this is, we're pushing for a new advocacy now with this new government to ensure that there is some kind of education for new immigrants to begin to understand the process and the struggle. So then because we don't need more volume to pile on the adversity that we face, and we face it as a people. So what I'm trying to say here is, yes, we have cultural endowment, which is our predisposition of who we are, which is beautiful. The diversity with which God has endowed us is the most beautiful thing this earth has, and it took a long time for us to all perceive that, because for a long time we pushed for cultural hegemony and one culture supersedes the other, whereas that's not the case. In every little bit of it, we are a tapestry of beauty. It's like a jigsaw puzzle that need to be placed. So it is very critical for us all to understand the struggle and what those figures that you put there represent then and now, especially even more important now and hopefully for the future, in such a way that we reference them and make sure that we don't make the mistakes that we've made in the past. And we've made many mistakes in the past, and thank God we were able to be in this new environment, which appeases me personally, though I'm not about to raise any political conviction. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of people were uneasy with the campaign of bringing America's glory back. America's glory never lost. Really, we have not even attained it yet. We are going towards it, and we're making good progress. So we don't want anybody to take us back, because taking us back is very sad for a large population among us, not just the Africans, many of European descendants, many of Asian descendants who understand humanity and humanism, that there's only good and bad. And no culture should thrive on the burden of others, So the Black History Month represents so much for us all, not just the Africans. As a matter of fact, many African people are tired of celebrating it. Like, what do you want from me? You want me to dance again? They laugh at themselves. But for us as a people, as a nation, as a people of the world, it is important for us to know where we're coming from and how far we've come and how far we still need to go. So this celebration really is to measure the benchmark, to measure the progress that we are making, and that we are going in the right direction. And that's crucial for us. This is why I'm very pleased with you, Guruji, and I'm very glad to support you and make sure that this sets on the right rail, you see. So I want to make sure that that's the case. I feel very passionate about this, and I got to give you a good background about it. I came to the United States in 1994, and I'd come to finish my thesis, which was a doctoral program I was doing at the University of Vienna, Austria. And my thesis was about the authenticity of Americanism. Okay. It's for a branch of philosophy called nomology, which is the study of minds. And 1994 in America, there were only few computers in libraries, and only people who were very versed were rich or could afford a Lisa computer, which was then the Mac. The Mac was more popular then, and the PC was still in DOS. So you had to go to a library, and I had to travel from one, and there weren't enough contents in the computer anyway. You can only write in the computer at that time. They weren't put, we didn't even have emails yet. So really, the study had to be done literally, okay? And you have to go to the library and find the books, using the library tools and stuff like that. So I had to really study each and every culture in the United States of America and how it became part of the United States. And part of it has to do with also learning the indigenous American cultures and people and this history and the story. the story, when you have gone through that, first of all, let me tell you, when I got as far as the African-American history, I abandoned this study because I could not continue anymore because of the melancholy that overcame me. For what I have seen and what I've read, and it was just too much, too heavy on my heart, that people have gone through so much struggle, so much pain. And when I see people on the street, I cannot separate them from that struggle. I cannot, because I understand, even though they might not seem connected to it, but I've seen so much. And it's all useful now. It's all useful now because there's a purpose to everything, especially when you have some spiritual inclination, like we all do. So you know that it's impossible not to have a calling after all of that experience, that even the whole process had been a calling from the get-go. So I've managed to summon courage and completed my studies and all of that. And I have calligraphy writings of thousands of pages on these issues, thousands of pages. They remain a treasure today because this information still are not, you can find them on the internet because they are in very old books. But what's good is that through what we do, through the programs that we do, through all our relationship and our communications, we're able to utilize some of the things that we learned, especially to get us all to understand and be as much as possible on the same page, at least even if we're not on the same page, that we are working towards the same goal. And the first thing to do is to understand that it's only about good and bad. It's not about anything else, but good and bad. Not about our humanism. It's about our humanity, which is then good and bad. So I applaud you all for being here, and for celebrating this wonderful occasion. I love you very much, Guruji, and I commend you for this courage because it's a very difficult topic. I warned you that you didn't know what you were getting into, but we'll sail through it together. I think what is most important, especially from our group here, is to continue to give our blessings for this process. I don't want to call it a struggle because nobody should struggle forever. The struggle must end. I don't believe in the struggle must continue. I think the struggle must end, and peace is what needs to be achieved. So I think we should all, in our prayers, in our hearts, pray for peace, pray for harmony. Harmony, I believe, is much better than unity. Unity is a confused word. It doesn't happen. We saw the Republicans and the Democrats still slugging it at the Congress. There is no unity there. So what we want is harmony. What we want is understanding. What we want is peace. Whatever we do must be for the greater good. So I thank you again all for this opportunity. I am with you and support you, and we'll get through this together. I'm here if there's any questions. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Wiley. I want to mention something. We all came from different background. We all are expert in certain areas. That's the best part about our group, right? All are different types, different ethnic groups, different countries, in different practices, different behaviors. But there's a beauty about this unity in diversity, that I say. And now we are here to support each other. That's the way, this was a plan. We had the discussion group on Wednesday on same subject. Then suddenly we made a decision to have this as a larger scale and bring the discussion deeper level. That's why within a few days we mold this event actually. So I'm glad we made that decision. For me, taking a decision is a split second. Okay, this plan is good, we'll move forward. I won't think what I lose in my life. I just go. I know this is good for people. Around 700 people are watching this even online. Maybe we are here 20 people, But those people are going to get the message from us. We are spending little time from our life to educate people. Education is a major resource we had to bring to people. I remember when I was in college, government of Kerala state made a decision to have a total literacy program. That's the first project happened around the world. That was in my city. 3 years I spent. After my college, I go to older people, those who don't know how to write and read. Spend 3 to 4 hours until night. I spend time with them. They don't know how to read. It was very hard to teach them. And we had to teach them history of India and the culture. And within 1 year, they changed. They are so happy. You look at their face, that's totally different because every day, especially ladies, they had to go to the husband will tell you what to do. They don't know how to read. They go to children, can you tell what is the news? When they see they can read a newspaper, their happiness is totally different. That is one of the experience I got in my life. When you educate somebody, they will grow themselves. A child will fall and get up, fall and get up. So we'll take that hand and walk through life and make them to grow. That's the part gurus will do. Educate, support, let them go their own way. We are not holding anybody. So here we all are here to support each other. So definitely I'm glad we made this event. So I'm going to open the floor. Everybody will have a chance to speak. This is an open forum. I want to invite Reverend Dr. Doris McAfee from the All Faith Seminary. Floor is for you.
Thank you very much, Guruji. I am delighted to be a part of the program today. And thank you, Guruji, for making the decision to step out to offer this forum for us to come together to share our views, to be supportive of each other, to be inspiring and instructive. I grew up in the segregated South. My formative years were in the years of Fannie Lou Hamer, when the South, and as well many other parts of the states, were struggling with rights, accessibility, equity, inclusion. And in so many ways today, in 2021, we are still struggling with the same issues at many levels. Our month, what I call our month, Black History Month, is set aside to recognize those who have gone before us, that first generation who came into this country and those who therefore have struggled and on whose shoulders we walk, seeking equity, seeking unity, seeking inclusion. In the book, in the Holy Bible, in the book of Micah, it reads, "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to work humbly with your God." So the message therein says to me that we are, regardless of our anointed responsibility, an expression of that divine energy. And within that are to see our fellow brothers and sisters as just that, one with God and equal in our ability and right to access all that has flown through the creative energy of the divine. I always like to use the hand as a symbol of harmony and balance. When we look at the hand, each finger is so different from the other. Each in the expression of the hand has a responsibility, and it flows into the oneness of the base. The thumb doesn't say to the little finger, I'm better than you. It doesn't say to the index finger, I'm better than you because I'm longer than you. But each, as it's grown and its expressions in the universe, flows into a base of unity and oneness. And in its functionality of the world, it becomes one. And it becomes an instrument of the divine, because we so often say that we are instruments of the divine. And it is through our instrument of the divine that we serve and do the work of the divine. So in that thought form, I am drawn to a poem by Langston Hughes, which says, I too. He says in his poem, I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table when the company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. I offer these thoughts in the consciousness of harmony, in the consciousness of peace, in the consciousness of compassion, and in the consciousness of love, that all humanity can come together and be our brothers and sisters, caring for each other and sharing all of God's resources, because we love each other, because we care for each other, and we seek the best for each other. And so it is, I offer this message. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Doris. That is the second poem we heard. That is good. That's good. Then, where is TK Nakagaki? TK?
Here. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm here, but
yeah.
Hello. Yeah. I don't know whether
You.
I wasn't sure I can make it today, so I didn't say. I just say hello. But yeah. Well, congratulations. You have this opportunity. I mean, bringing the Black History Month, and then Black History celebration too. So it's actually this morning I have a class for the Dharma class, and so we're actually talking about it, how much before history is important to recognize, because a particular Black history, this particular history part is very important, because I still remember one of the best class I ever took in the United States was a minority history. And then when we talk about minority history, then you can all realize how much of the, so-called that class started from the Native American, and then Black people, and then Asian communities, and all those different parts of the, history. But the history itself was very, very important, because major history does not mention about minority history, what's each group have to go through. And then major history tend to be a little bit of a hero story too sometimes, because we have this much of the things, and we have done this and done that. And even actually my closest one of my friends passed away because of the COVID, but anyway, he was a photographer. He's a Chinese, by the way, and then when he saw the pictures, the railroad is complete. All we see is a white people, Caucasian people who, that finally make the railroad, they established. But then he knows that there are many Chinese people worked for it, but then the history book doesn't show that. It's only the main part of the people, the so-called leaders and so forth. But then the true history comes from the, all of the people working behind. But then those are really the hero, or people who create this country. And then I believe the same thing in Black peoples, just starting from the slavery type of parts, but yet some of the cultures created was out of those experience, and so that was in a way celebration of the rediscovery of the history of how much of the Black community, Black people does, but so as all the other community, any of the minority group or any of the group basically is contributing this country. And so that's for me, it's a very important awareness for the month. And then, because sometimes I feel like, separation of the group too, when you say Black part, and, then the Asian parts, I mean, it seems like a little bit all separate, but yet the intention itself is recognized and group. But at the same time, I think recognition of the kind of, we share the common, what do you call it, although it's a different, but yet each group has a history to settle here. And then each group has a struggle, but also achievement, and all those things, a mixture in this country. And so in a way, it's very important to realize the history of each group, and so that we can sort of see the full history of the United States. Not only limited people kind of, created this country, but rather it's all of us who created this country. And so, and then one thing, sorry, but this is totally different, but I have a dream speech. Thank you for sharing that. And then actually that was for me, it was very interesting, but when I was at university student, so almost 40 years ago, actually, to be honest, but 40 years ago, I was taking those speech class. And then one thing, everybody has to memorize entire speech of the things. And then the first one that ever, make a speech is actually, I have a dream speech. But then I realized it's much longer. At that time, when a university, I think they cut it in between some parts. And then I still remember how difficult to pronounce Emancipation Proclamation. So that part was always stuck for my speech. But anyway, but then I was reading together, Rumi's sharing the parts, and so I was reading together. I found a page, so I was just going through. So that was very wonderful. And I always like that parts of I have a dream today. It's not tomorrow or yesterday, but today I have a dream. And somehow I like that particular phrase, although the title itself, I have a dream, but I have a dream today makes a big difference. We are not living the past, although past is important, but yet those past, is the one that make us at this point today. And so that today should be the very important. So I have a dream today is the part that I felt somehow very important. So where we stand, where we're going, in the past, you may have some conflict and so forth. Sometimes because history bring the, kind of agitation sometimes, some people, but yet we are here. But then I think it's nice to respect those history, but yet we are here, and how we can work together, and how much of the sharing of, each people has those story history. And so that's my kind of reflection for today. So thank you very much for giving me this sharing a little thoughts that I have. And then the piece is very important. And I feel like for me, it's also nice to be colorblind, because I'm, in the back of me, there's a statue of a gold color. That's actually the one of the vow of the Buddha. And then which means whoever was born in a land of the Buddha Amitabha, they all become golden color. So that's, because the skin of the color, makes the people divided somehow, but yet, if you take out the skin, I think that each one has a golden, colors, wonderful quality within us. And so those could be a life, the preciousness of life we all have. And so in the end, I feel like this, whatever the colors of the, race and so forth should be also taking off. And then you be everybody will be human beings. And also maybe all just the beings is okay too, not just a human, but beings of like all the, the life that we have on this earth. So each one can shine with a golden color. So maybe you can paint the gold next time. But anyway, but so that the gold itself for the statue here is all gold. It's all gold in the background. Is actually representing, each one has a different color, but yet inside we have all this shining golden color like a light. So I hope, that's probably one of the goals for me, not to see any color anymore, just see the golden color for each one of people. So, but so with that, I just give short prayer for the one that I normally do. So, okay. Then join me in Gassho, please. Gani shikudoku byodo seishai do tsuboda ishim ojo May all living beings be happy, well, and peaceful. May we all be free from suffering. May we all be free from pain. May we all be free from attachment, from greed, anger, and ignorance. May we all attain ultimate happiness and peace of enlightenment. Peace to you all. Thank you so much. Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you, Reverend. Take care. That was wonderful. Always good to have different prayers. Is Ghandi Quadrium is there or Anji?
Hello?
Yes. Okay, Lindy can go. Lindy.
Hello. Namaste, and a wonderful event that you put together, and took on. And so I want to acknowledge that, taking it on, and just making this happen. A lot of great conversations like this. I know when I attend and other people attend, they say, oh, this conversation has to continue. It's so good. And Guru Dileep is part of our Ghandi King Season for Nonviolence Organizing Committee. And so some of the people here will be continuing the conversation, and we invite all of you to continue the conversation with us in March. I'll tell you about both events. So first of all, the Ghandi King Season for Nonviolence, if anybody does not know, was formed by the Ghandi and King family survivors at the United Nations 24 years ago. And it takes place from January 30th, which is the anniversary of the assassination of Mahatma Mohandas Gandhi, through April 4th, which is the assassination of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And the event was held for many years at the United Nations, and then in New York, and then in New York, it moved to the United Federation of Teachers, and then the New York Society for Ethical Culture. And as Guru Dileep said so well, we won't be stopped with the COVID. This year it's virtual. And the blessing of that is that anybody can join us who can't get to, central Manhattan, can join in and continue the conversation with us. And because it's virtual this year, we usually do one culminating event, but this year we're doing 2 culminating events. So on Thursday, March 25th, there'll be a Living Historic Civil Rights Movement Icon panel featuring freedom writer Catherine Burks Brooke, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee Movement veteran Angeline Butler, who you heard from here today, civil rights organizer 100-year-old Marian Fusan, who Ms. Butler referenced, School and Lunch Counter Desegregationist King Holland, Sit-In Movement veteran Paul LaPrade, freedom writer James Werg, and many others. We will have musical performances from Japan and from other places around the world and here in New York. And then and before that, on March 18th, we will have Gandhi King Across Cultures and Faiths, again with musical performances and a panel discussion with Imam Dr. Shamsi Ali, Brahma Kumaris, Sister Sabita Greer, Reverend Nicole Harris, Rabbi Mark Klein, Guru Dileepji, and Reverend Terry Troyer, Pastor Kerwin Webb. And inspired by Guru Dileep, we keep adding and adding and adding, not looking at how much more work that'll mean for us. So we invite you all to participate with us in the Gandhi King season for nonviolence. Guru Dileep has many ways to contact us if you want to become more involved. We would love to have you attend, and certainly if you want to become more involved. All are welcome, intergenerational and cross-cultural. That's what the Gandhi King season for nonviolence is all about, honoring those great leaders' legacy internationally and continuing it. And it's all a lot of young people, a lot of students involved on the planning committee. Peter from Peace Lights, who's on here, Guru, and so many others can testify. There's many young people helping to organize it, students from John Jay and from high schools. And so it's also about, as he said, supporting the youth and intergenerationally educating each other. So thank you. And we hope to see you on March 18th and on March 25th, 2 Thursdays in March, to continue this wonderful conversation. Namaste and many blessings, and thank you all.
Thank you, Lindy. We will post on our Facebook pages, and a few of us are on that team. So we had to promote this event. This is the way we bring peace and harmony around the world. I want to invite Sri Gandhi Kota Ariamma to bring his vision. Yeah, floor is for it.
Namaste, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you today. I'm very glad you invited me, Guruji. Very nice to see all of you. We've met sometimes in the past. Salutations to you all. I'm an advisor for the Sarvadharma Service Center in Howell, New Jersey. We used to live in New York, and my father and I worked in New York for many years. It's a great honor and privilege to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me again. And we must speak of the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of mankind. We are told that we were all descended from Adam and Eve, or Manu and his wife Satarupa, according to the Hindu tradition. We're all one species, Homo sapiens sapiens. We all have a spark of the Lord within us, the Atma or the soul. With all this, we still see how peoples across the world had to struggle for basic human rights and dignity. Native Americans, African Americans, Indians, colonized nations around the globe. We must work together to encourage peace and harmony as spiritual leaders between nations and religions and give relief for the suffering. Love for humanity and meditation to ease the mind are essential. The Civil Rights Movement was an organized effort by African Americans to end racial discrimination in the United States and gain equal rights under the law. It began in the late 1940s and continued into the late 1960s. It was mostly nonviolent, but brought about revolutionary changes. In July 1954, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Agreement. In August of 1965, he signed the Voting Rights Act. Those were hard-fought battles. I came personally to the United States in 1952 as a child. My father was a Vedic scholar and a very enlightened being. He joined the United Nations in 1951 as an economic affairs officer. He worked with many ex-colonial developing nations from Africa, Asia, and South America to bring their causes and cases to the United Nations. They had a lot of hope that the United Nations would assist in bringing about a change in the world political order that was then, from the 50s, the 60s, and so on. We followed the civil rights movement, and my father participated in many meetings with many influential people in the civil rights movement. I followed along with him. Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King's pilgrimage to India, his I Have a Dream speech, and unfortunately the assassinations of him and Robert Kennedy. It was hard-fought progress, and it's still ongoing today. We have to consolidate the gains and help those who still are suffering. Bold visions must be fulfilled. First of all, you have to have the vision, and then we have to follow, and then we must try to fulfill it for all. And as Swami says, Sai Baba, love all, serve all, unity, purity will lead to divinity. So I'll just give one quotation of Sri Sat Sai Baba. There is only one religion, the religion of love. There is only one language, the language of the heart. There is only one caste, the caste of humanity. There is only one law, the law of karma. There is only one God, and He is omnipresent. So I'll conclude with a Shanti mantra or peace mantra. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunattu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvi Namadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This is from the Taittiriya Upanishad, and the translation is, Om, may God protect us together. May God nourish us together. May we work together with great energy. May our study be vigorous and effective. May we not mutually dispute, or may we not hate anyone. Om, let there be peace in me. Om, let there be peace in my environment. Om, let there be peace in the forces that act on me. And one last prayer. Samasta lokaha sukhino bhavantu. Samasta lokaha sukhino bhavantu. Samasta lokaha sukhino bhavantu. May all beings in all worlds be happy. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you, Ji. It was wonderful to hear Hindu mantras and other points that you brought. Your dad was involved with the UN. A lot of people don't know about that one. So those who want to invite Arimaji to your events, please. He has some history.
Thank you.
Then now I want to invite our peace light, Peter Rogina. Floor is for it.
Hello, everybody. Namaste. Thank you, Guruji, for inviting me to this event. And I'd also like to pay homages to Queen Mother. Always beautiful to see you. And Malika Sabah, thank you very much for being there. And all of my friends and reverends and different religions. Ghandi Kota Adiyama, we are neighbors. I live up the street in Manalapan. I didn't know you were down in the hall.
Yes, I'm in Piscataway, New Jersey.
I worked there for many years. So Black History Month and celebrating Black History Month. I heard Dr. Wali speak about how it's much of telling the experience of what happened. And it occurs to me that it's all about education, that we're not celebrating the history, because in many cases the history is bad. We are celebrating the lights and the wisdom that we can get from the history. But it's really about the education and the bringing us together so that we can come together. My personal journey has involved me in peace education in the African Union. And it occurs to me that the importance of connecting the diaspora back with the continent, for there to be this mutual education and mutual healing, is a very important part of what Black History Month both is and should evolve to be more of. And that I take very seriously. Guru mentioned before the number of citizens around the world that are youth, 40% of the citizens around the world being youth. That number in Africa is closer to 75%. And and there is an enormous opportunity to educate, as is called for in the 50-year plan of the African Union, the tenets of peace, the tenets that were so strongly propagated by Ghandi, by Martin Luther King, and told to us today by Angeline, some of those personal experiences. All of those are very important to continue to propagate going forward. And I'd like to just talk about a little bit the urgency of now that Dr. Remy reminded us, the words of Martin Luther King. You know, the reason we're doing this is so that we can have the impact going forward. And we're only really concerned in living in the now, but recognizing that we have this urgency to make things better and accelerate the timelines for making things better is what it's all about. I'll end with a quote from Malcolm X. And he said, and this was kind of inspired by Gabriel the other day, education is the passport to the future, for the future belongs to those who prepare for it. And I believe that these sorts of events and these sorts of celebrations prepare us better for the future and enable us to continue this habit of interfaith dialogue and interfaith learning. And with that, I'd like to end, and I'd like to just say that I too have my son here, who has been listening to this entire program and has been at a number of, more than I can count, Peace Lights events. So thank you all. Great to see you all again. And namaste, everybody.
Wonderful to hear from you, Pete. So let me see who else. I saw Sister Sabida here from Brahma Kumari's NGO. Sister Sabida. Floor is for you.
Hello, everyone. So good to see all of you. I heard part of the program, and what I heard was so beautiful. Thank you, Guruji, for organizing this. I'm so glad to see some very prominent people here, like Queen Mother and Lindy, of course, and Pete, and so many of you, Malika. And nice to meet those of you whom I haven't met yet. This month that we're celebrating, Black History Month, it's very sacred and auspicious thing, I feel. And I really do agree with Pete when he said that we're not really celebrating history, because history people can find. But what we're really actually doing is recognizing the goodness in each other, recognizing the worth that we have, not only in myself, but in everyone, regardless of what is external, color, caste, or creed. That's not important. What's important is who we are on the inside, and our color is the same. Our beauty is the same. Our values are the same. It's all peace, love, compassion, kindness, and respect, because we are the light. We are the light, and the light, whether we choose the light of yellow, which means compassion, or we choose the light of green, which may mean joy, or whatever color we choose, actually, we are light. And with light, we have no difference. We are all created by God. God is one, and that makes us one. That makes us a family. So my purest feelings will be, let us hold this energy. Let us hold this very dear to our heart, that we are one global family sharing one planet. Let us live like that, and let us raise this awareness so that we can help our brothers and sisters to recognize their own value, their own worth. So we had our big event on Friday, which went really good. Some of you were there. And I'm looking forward to the one with Lindy on March 18th and on March 25th. Let's keep the flame going. Let's keep the torch lit. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Sabda. Appreciate your support. Somehow we forgot to mention about somebody, that is Abraham Lincoln. He says, I am naturally anti-slavery. If slavery is not wrong, nothing is wrong. What a courageously he did ending slavery. Even I see the slavery in different forms around the world. Still it is there. Even Corona time, people are making us slaves sitting at home. Something we had to think about it. I'm not against the vaccines or any other precautions to save us from the virus. What is going on around the world? We turn around the nature, we destroy the nature, then we want to control people. This is not a humanity. Something wrong in our leadership. A lot of time I argue with leaders, especially politicians, religious leaders, and business people. They are the people supposed to lead people in a proper direction. We have duties. This is not we are doing a seva. It is our duty, even it's paid or not, because we are matured enough to serve. So there is something wrong going on around the world. We have to fix it. That is our duty. Otherwise, this world won't exist for a longer period. Like I'm reading all the news about the climate change. Even New York City can be in the water within 10 years. You know? And some people are saying there's no problem in the environment. Something wrong in their head. You know? We had to use our brain to think about and learn about and educate and share. It's not for fight, for our existence. You know, we had to make sure our next generation should live peaceful. Otherwise, no point of all of the theologies great masters brought from different countries. That's a purpose, you know. The nature should have a balance. We should have a balance in our own life. You know, so we have to, each of us should take a responsibility to fix the problem and balance the world, you know. So I want to invite Brother Raj Oneness. Brother Oneness is here. Unmute yourself, bring your video up. Sorry for you.
Yes, namaste everyone, all the divine souls on this panel and everyone who is watching on Facebook Live. I just want to reflect on my own life. You know, I came in '73 to United States. My brother had a medical practice in part of Detroit where a lot of Black people that was, he was serving. So that was the introduction to Black History Month at that time. Later on, several years later, I had a chance to work at Bed-Stuy Restoration here in Brooklyn in the Black community. And once again, made friendship with our Black brothers and sisters. Now I have a family member who is my own daughter-in-law from Eritrea. And we have 3 beautiful granddaughters who are of African heritage. So African heritage and African culture is part of my thinking and my own beloved Swami, my guru, Sri Bhagwan Sathya Sai Baba, who taught the principle of divinity lives in each one of us. Each of us is a unique creation of God, have the capability to experience that God's love and share with all of creation. So change begins with me. I have to radiate that smile, acknowledge, accept, include, expand my thinking. The moment I consider another person as my own family member, no animosity, no adversity, there's no reason to argue a point. We can agree to disagree, but we can all flourish like one big family and glorify that one God in all forms, Allah, Buddha, Jesus, Mahavira, all names, all forms. It doesn't matter. Just like going to a buffet, enjoying various items to relish our hunger. Our our hunger is the spiritual hunger to experience that divine love. That's what all the religions taught us, and that's what we are here. So each of us can make a difference. So we have to take care of ourselves, our thinking, so that we feel good, so that we take care of our family to make them whole, make them all inclusion, so that we forgive, we forget, acknowledge, and be an encourager. That's the whole point. So I pray to Lord Almighty to help us to radiate the divinity within each one of us and radiate that peace within each one of us. Peace begins with me. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, Om Shanti. That is wonderful. Gabriel, Winnie, making sure everybody will have at least 1 minute to speak up. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Yeah. Would you like to share?
Hi, just greeting to everyone. I'm not prepared.
That's fine, that's fine. What about our little boy from Peace Light? He want to say?
My English is not enough good to say, and I'm afraid to say this time, maybe next time.
Okay, okay, fine. Pete, Regina, your son is like to say something? Son.
Can you say something? Peace? What do you say at the end?
Yeah, come on, Theo.
Right.
Say something.
May peace prevail on earth.
That is good. May peace prevail on earth. Gabriel Martinez. Okay, that's great.
Namaste.
Good.
Namaste.
Sorry, I was late. Unprepared. My apologies. It's wonderful to be with you all and to listen to you all. It's very inspiring. Today is a wonderful celebration. Very long overdue. This is a welcoming home, the way I see it. This is a welcoming to our human family, to spiritual consciousness, to awakening, to it's a reunion, because we're all one family. And regardless of what happened in the past, regardless of anything, it's really about what we do from this point forward. And the way I see everybody talking, the way I feel the energy flowing today, I feel like it's finally beginning to come into place. And we need to restore the earth. We need to give homage to the indigenous people of the world. They're the ones who have the connection to the earth. We need to take each step with meaning, with awareness. And if we lose track of our steps, we need to become aware as quick as possible and learn to forgive ourselves. And really learning to forgive ourselves is the hardest thing. Everything on the outside is a reflection of the inside. So it's somebody said earlier, it's how deep we're willing to go. It's a beautiful journey in the dream, in the non-nightmare part. But in the nightmare part, we have to do the work to heal ourselves and to learn to love ourselves and spread the love outward from ourselves out, and not love everybody superficially while we don't love ourselves. I want to acknowledge Pete. Thank you so much. I love that you mentioned Malcolm X, because I hear Martin Luther King mentioned so much. And for me, Malcolm X was a very powerful spiritual force. He made his mistakes, as we all do, but the fact of the matter is that he lived a very difficult life. He was terrorized from a very early age, and it says a lot to walk a mile in a man's shoe before you judge him. And if I don't think many people could walk in those shoes and come out anywhere close to where he came out, with the level of resiliency. And in my mind, he's an unsung hero. We need more like him in the world. And it's not just about nonviolence. It's about learning how to heal ourselves, learning how to find ourselves, even if we're lost, even if we find ourselves you know, we all don't have easy, comfortable lives. Some of us have very difficult lives. So healing ourselves from that point is not as easy as somebody who's had an easy life. So we can't generalize and judge. You know, we have to learn how to appreciate each person's journey, be willing to see where each person came from, and appreciate what the positive that they have to offer. And we're all healing together. So this is a co-journey. This is not just one person. So we're sharing, and this is a beautiful sharing. God bless you all. Wale, all of you, God bless you. Thank you so much. Queen Mother, you are such an inspiration. God bless you.
Thank you, Gabriel. That was a wonderful message. I want to invite one of our board member, Anand Patoli, is living in America more than 50 years, came from India, is an artist, musician, and a writer. And today is his birthday too. So we'll do a prayer. He will do the prayer, then we'll sing the song, okay?
Guru, maybe you can spotlight him.
Yeah, I'm going to spotlight Anboy. He will do the prayer in his language. So we'll learn what is his language. Yeah.
Namaste. Om. 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 Om Brahmaya Namah, Jehovaya Namah, Allaya Namah, Anantaya Namah, Sarva Sakshi, Sarva Vyapi, Parameshwaraya Namah, Nirgun Nirakara Devaya Namah. O Lord, thou art one, but thy names are many. We bow down before thee and worship thee. Namostu Tuzala Paramamangala Paramavatsala Vishwapate Mani Jani Aparatrabhode Sarvakala Tava Samakshate Jagat Karana Vapa Upama Jagina Tujya Vatsalate Jagat Karana Putra Vinava Sada Krupatava Viradate Jagat Chalana Pavitratman Pavitra Karamuchi Charite Hey Trividayka Nabode Taba Ananya Shubhamaya Bhuti Te. The Gayatri Mantra Om Bhur Bhava Swaha Tat Savituravaranama Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yona Prachodayat. Shri Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. In his name eternal peace, peace, peace.
So everybody can sing happy birthday. He is a young boy. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Anboy. Happy birthday to you. Hey.
May God bless you.
May God bless you. Are you 10? Are you 20? Are you 30? Are you 40? Are you 50? Are you 60? Are you 70? Are you 80? Are you 90? Are you 91? Happy birthday. God bless you.
We are waiting for the 100th year birthday.
Yes.
We'll have big celebration.
Yes. God bless you. May we all live long to the same age or longer. Thank you so much. It's been a joy knowing you.
It is said that when you reach 90, you're part of the 9 planets. You know,
Oh.
And when you reach 100, you become pure divinity.
Wow.
Yesterday evening, Rajbhai called me around 3:30. Oh, are you there? I said, yeah. Oh, I'm coming. So he came from Brooklyn with a cake. So we don't know. He's bringing cake.
Oh, good. Wonderful.
We had a celebration. Yeah.
That was a pleasant surprise.
Right.
Thank you.
God bless. God bless.
God bless you. God bless you.
So we'll,
many blessings, many blessings.
Yes,
Happy
man.
birthday, Ambai.
Happy birthday. Bless you.
He's going.
So thank you everyone. It was a wonderful gathering. I feel good because we had to support our friends. In our group, we don't differentiate people. We think all are our brothers and sisters. I tried to keep up my principle. Maybe here and there I may make some mistakes. Usually I'm pretty good with it, you know. And people may think I'm a little prejudiced or egoistic. Fine, they can think it, but not in reality. You know, I'm totally different. Because I see people's life, how they go through it. That's why I travel around the world, meet people, and go to their house, stay there and learn about the culture, eat their food, and what is the taste. I'll talk with them. What is your farming techniques? How you make money? How do you interact with the people? What's the language? At least one word I learned from them. So they feel good. When you speak their word, konnichiwa, they're happy. Or annyeonghaseyo, sabe bien, you know, different, they're so happy. So they learn only thing from me, that is namaste, nothing else. You know, so I promote our culture, we promote their culture. This is the way it is. We create international integrity between people. That's a UN meant for. So some of us are part of the UN group and we incorporate other people to our group so they can learn different things. You know, we cannot bring all the people to the UN events, but we share what we learn, you know. This is where we work in the grassroots level and make the change. We don't want to live in a pedestal, you know, and we have to be with the people. That's the part I love it. So each event is different. So we'll go according to the event. But in the nutshell, everything comes in a melting pot, you know. We say like a vegetable stew or a sambar, everything in one pot, you know. So next week, we are trying to put the International Women's Day. I think the former Deputy Prime Minister for Nepal is going to speak. I'm not sure it's Sunday or Monday, which is available for her. We'll go according to that. We may start at 11 or 10. I want to see other people's schedule, then we'll fix it. And I'll send you email or Facebook message and let me know who want to speak here and there. Then we'll go according to that. Thank you, everyone. Wonderful to see. Keep in touch. Appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.